Idol. And what this is going to be is it's going to be a rewrite of the show. Pretty new show. It was on HBO. It had Lily Depp, The Weeknd, and it just did not get good publicity. And a lot of it's probably because what they were trying to do with the show and what happened with the show is two different things. So today we're going to talk about kind of what I didn't personally like about the show, what I did like about the show. There was some aspects of the show that were actually pretty good. That actually was kind of digging into the concept of like a statistical, sarcastic version of what it's like to be in Hollywood and to be an idol and some of the consequences that come with that. But the show turned into something else. So with this rewrite, the first two episodes, I'm not going to change the first two episodes too much. I'm going to talk about some of the changes I think could be fixed and everything, but for the most part, I think, it's pretty good the way it is. So let's kind of dive kind of into it and see what we can do about, making this show maybe not the greatest masterpiece ever, but maybe kind of creating a better show out of what we could have gotten. Like I said, what the show, first of all, what the Idol is about, it's about Jocelyn. Her mother just passed away a year ago, and she had a mental breakdown, and she's trying to make a comeback with kind of creating a new image for herself. Kind of what I kind of got from what the show was kind of representing her as was kind of a mix between like a Nickelodeon star and kind of like a Britney Spears, where they're all like trying to make a new image for themselves. So that's kind of what I focused on with this rewrite, is that I wanted to see, that part. I wanted to focus more on Jocelyn, and The Weeknd's pretty much cut out for the most part. I am going to bring his character up a little bit towards the end, but for the most part, it's going to be mostly about Jocelyn kind of coming back from her career, dealing with the abuse that she experienced from her mother and her ex-boyfriend that will also come up during the end. And a better way to express this abuse, the show doesn't do exactly the good job to show it tells you, it doesn't show you. And you don't necessarily have to, in a story like this, have to be shown the abuse. But it would have been nice if she went to therapy, or it was done in kind of a better way than, The Weeknd saying, okay, what did your mother do? And then, repeat it. That wasn't necessary. So kind of the breakdown. I'm going to start with episode 1. Pretty much keep it the same. I would like to have some flashbacks with Jocelyn and her mother, just to kind of create that vision of what was she do, what was her relationship with her mother really like. Because at the end of the show, they act like Jocelyn lied about everything that happened. So, I mean, that's fine if that's really the case, and she did lie, or she over-exaggerated, or something like that, and that's to kind of create the, the character that they wanted to make. I didn't get that from the character of Jocelyn. I don't see any reason why she should have to lie about the abuse. But at the same time, maybe that was something that she, they wanted for her character. So maybe that was something. I don't particularly know, but in this rewrite, that's not something we're going to really focus on. So we're going to go to episode 2, which is not going to change too much. This is the episode where she's creating her first music video with the comeback. The difference between what I want to do is I want episode 2 not to just focus on the music video, but I also wanted to focus on the interview with the Vogue interviewer a little bit more. I would like it to be like episode 1, they're introduced to each other, and then episode 2, you have the interview. And this is kind of where I want Jocelyn to kind of talk about the abuse that she had with her mother. So this would be kind of where I would be like, okay, now let's talk about the hairbrush scene. Like, let's talk about, maybe she brings up Xander's, contract with her mother. Like, she brings up some of the stuff that comes on later in the show, in this interview, that, you're not, as a viewer, you're not, it's going to take like a couple extra months to get this interview out here. It's not really going to affect her concert at all or anything like that. She can still focus on her music, but at the same time say, this is the abuse that I experienced. And she does, like in episode 3 or 4, she does, get on her cell phone. She goes on like something like an Instagram and says, this is the experience I experienced with my mother. So it's not like she's against saying anything. And I think maybe for her fan base, maybe to make her a little bit more real, maybe she has to. But I think having it in the Vogue interview is a little bit more, it's a lot better for the storyline. As you notice, like, I kept most of episode 1 intact. Like, I didn't think it was too bad. Some of the things are a little bit problematic, like, the line, the guy's like, well, she doesn't want to show so much, like, she wants to show a lot, and her contract says she wants to show a little. Maybe not locking him up might, not be something that, would have helped a little bit more. But at the same time, it didn't really set me back on watching another episode. If you get like that sarcastic way of viewing everything, maybe you need those scenes to show, oh, this is a sarcastic show looking at these issues, not not the whole thing of, you're not supposed to take this show seriously. And maybe that's, maybe keeping those scenes shows that a little bit better. So at the end of episode 2, you have Nikki, which is part of Jocelyn's team. Jocelyn has another mental breakdown doing her music video, and Nikki hires Diana to do the song. I want to keep that in there. I want to do kind of something a little bit different. Something a little bit different with that, because I do like the idea of Diane being kind of friend villain. Like, I think that's something in Hollywood that's, happens all the time. Like, people kind of step over people, and that's something that, can definitely stay in there. And Nikki not being fully like 100%, like trusting that Jocelyn's going to keep it together. I get that. For her money and her job security, I do get why Nikki might go somewhere else to find, employment and stuff like that. So I want to keep that in there. So we're already at the 3rd episode. This is where you're going to see the most changes. So obviously, episode 3 is kind of the start of the weekend kind of taking over Jocelyn's house. You have all his cult stuff that he's involved in. I'm cutting that out. It's not necessary for what I think they were trying to do with this show, which is like a commentary on, what it's like to actually be an idol and kind of, that whole thing. So this is gonna be the main difference. And one of the first things that I wanted to check on is Leah and Jocelyn with their makeup line. It is mentioned in the show that they have been working on a makeup line. I think this is actually the most realistic thing, especially with the fact that Jocelyn's not as stable and doesn't seem like her comeback's doing really well at the present moment. She just lost her song, that her only song that was like her comeback song. Um, the thing with erasing the weekend is we need to figure out how she comes up with her own music. I'm still thinking some way the weekend does get another producer. Some way she does get with that producer. I think he was an interesting character, and maybe him kind of taking over the weekend spot might be a little bit better for Jocelyn and having her more focus on the songs themselves. You can still have the heart to heart this way too, where Jocelyn's still like, this is how I'm feeling, and then he's like, okay, what can we, like, what lyrics can we come up with your situation? And I think that's something that the rest of the show focuses on, is getting her new songs. But at the same time, we also need to think, okay, what is her life going to be like if she can't get back into music? And I think having her makeup line would be a very good thing. I mean, a lot of artists have other things that they pursue, and I think keeping this makeup line story is actually really good, and I think will be actually beneficial to Jocelyn, where the weekend thinks it wasn't, and going more into that storyline. And I think they can connect it to the concert, like you buy a thing of lipstick, for example, and like you can get like $10 off of your ticket or something. Like, I think they can connect it to the concert, make it a little bit more of a pleasing aspect of the whole thing. Get this concert going, and getting her back up in line. I also do want Jocelyn to speak to Xander about the contract with her mother, and see like how they feel about it now. Now that her mother's gone, like, is Jocelyn as afraid of Xander taking over, like, as she was? Or can Xander start his own career? He might not be part of her team anymore, but can he start his own career? And what would that look like for their friendship? And I kind of bled this in, maybe at the end of episode 3, you see them starting to talk, and then episode 4, they really get into the nitty gritty of that. And episode 4 is also where her team goes to look up a band or a couple people to open up for. We can add this to the storyline that she hasn't been able, because nobody trusts that the concert's going to go on. So she needs an opening act, and of course, nobody wants to open for her. So her team actually goes out to clubs to see if anybody's willing to open for her, and then, they find a good group, and then it kind of ends there, and then the episode comes back with her ex coming back, which his name is Rob, and Rob kind of talks to her and says, like, hey, you complained that I cheated, but this was not a monogamy relationship. Do you want to try again? Like, having that kind of conversation. And Jocelyn agrees with him that they're going to try again, even though he did cheat. I did really like Rob in the show. Even though he was a vessel of, you know, Jocelyn wanting to make the Weeknd jealous, and at the end, you know, being accused of, you know, SA against the woman on his lap, and then he, you know, his career is ruined and stuff like that. He was a really good character. I think really cared about Jocelyn, but Jocelyn just didn't want to open up that door to him. So she was like, well, I don't want to, maybe she just doesn't even want a relationship and having to deal with her mother and stuff. You know, she was like, well, I wanted to take it seriously, but maybe I don't want to take it too seriously, and figuring out like what she really wants from that relationship. So the last episode, which is episode 5, is the concert. So we finally get to that. I didn't have too many issues if you took the Weeknd out with this episode. So pretty much the team shows Jocelyn, like in the show, Jocelyn shows the team, so it's kind of, flip flopped. So they show Jocelyn the opening act, she agrees to it, and then she, instead of taking the Weeknd out on stage, she takes Rob, says they're doing really good, and everybody kind of gets more of a happier ending, I guess. I guess the thing I really had an issue with is, what are they trying to do with the show? This is like the main issue, because you had two separate storylines. You had the storyline with Jocelyn that's like, oh, I want to make my comeback. I'm trying to change my image. And, she gets with the Weeknd thinking he's going to help her and all this stuff. That's the first storyline that you have. And then you have the Weeknd with his cult. And I think these could have been mashed up kind of well. But with the way that they did it, it was a complete separation. Like, I could have had a show about an artist that's trying to make their comeback separate from the cult. And then the cult's like a different. Now, I think with the cult storyline being set in Hollywood, I think was an interesting aspect. And if it was done correctly and not overshadowed the other storyline, I think it would have been really good. And I think you could have had maybe the two storylines kind of connect a little bit better. But because of the way that they didn't connect was like my problem with it. And my problem with it was, the Weeknd might not have been the best person to be the cult leader. He just didn't have enough charisma for me. With what I've studied about, cult leaders and stuff like that. I do have a psychology degree. And what I've kind of studied about that is they have to have charisma. Like, if the Weeknd, with his personality, got in front of like 1,000 people, I don't think he would have gotten the followers that he got. Like, I don't even know how he got the followers that he got to begin with. So I think somebody a little bit more in the way of better acting might have been that might have solved a little bit of that problem. Plus, the Weeknd acting like he didn't know about the music industry when he does as as a person, because he's a big time music artist. Like, I would have liked to have somebody that's like, I'm a music artist, come on this show and act like they know what happens in the music industry. I think that would have made him a better character if he, wasn't so naive to the music industry. I would have liked that a little bit better. I mean, obviously you have just unnecessary, steamy scenes for no reason. You had kind of unnecessary SA. And it wasn't something that needed to be in the story. Now, I know this is from the creators of Euphoria. I've seen a little bit of it, and I have the same issues with Euphoria that I do with this show. Is like some of the stuff that is in these shows is kind of unnecessary. I don't mind, steamy scenes. Like, I don't mind that, but when it's in such an unnecessary way, and the essay is like really unnecessary, and it's not moving the story, that's when I start having a problem. And that's, I think, the main problem with the show is that it couldn't figure out what it wants. That's one issue. And then the second issue is that, we're just trying to figure out who Jocelyn is, but we don't have any background. So our main character of this, we don't really know. Like, the ending kind of tells you, like, maybe she's just a pathological liar, and she just lied about everything, and, I'd hate to think that because of, like, some of the real-life comparisons I can make towards her story. I would hate for her to be like, I'd hate for them to create a story of, oh, she just lied about everything. I think it's more of, they wanted a reason for the Weeknd to get it out of her, and where he can get her back to focusing on the music. Not the healthiest way to do it, but at the same time, if that's kind of what the story that they were going for was, maybe that's something too. But overall, this was my rewrite, kind of my rough rewrite. Obviously, I didn't talk about any of the dialogue. The dialogue did drive me crazy in this show. There was a lot of unnecessary comments, especially from the character Mickey. I know I didn't get really into much of her team, but I just kind of wanted her to gain back her friendship with Xander and to work on her makeup line with Leah. Because I think those were the two important people, like, on her team, minus her two managers. I loved her two managers. The Live Nation guy, I mean, is fine. Some of his dialogue points weren't great, but at the same time, I got where he's coming from, because he's, this concert's a big deal to him, because if she doesn't show up, that's a lot of money lost out of his pocket. So I kind of got his kind of extreme view on, like, how he felt about her mental breakdown, especially after he found out about the music video. Nikki, to me, was the person on her team that I could have probably written her out, minus the fact that you do have her kind of taking Diana under her wing and, trying to make her a star, and then she goes back on her word, and it's just, which is, I mean, is Hollywood. Like that didn't really surprise me. That seems like something like somebody in the music industry would do if they don't feel like, they feel like they're going to lose out a lot of money, and, they're hurting as much as, other people and stuff like that. So, I mean, if you have an artist that's not giving you what you need, then that might be something that, she worries about. And I get that, her behavior, getting Diana to, go with her, maybe start her career, find another artist that might be a little bit more stable. I get that in, like, a long term. But, we'll see. I mean, obviously, I really hope that this show doesn't get a second season. I'm not promoting this show at all. Like, I would not say go watch this and then go watch this show, because it's nothing like what the rewrite is. There's a whole bunch of trigger warnings, definitely for SA abuse, parental abuse. There's a lot of smoking, alcoholism. So just be aware if you do kind of want to see if maybe this is something that you want to just watch out of curiosity. Just know that there is a lot of trigger warnings. But that being said, thank you for joining me on this journey. I hope I don't have to do too many rewrite episodes on this channel. But other than that, thank you for joining me. Hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more from me. I'm hoping to do some more manga, anime related content coming up here. I want to do some author deep dives. But with that being said, I'm Sonia, just trying to find the best story in the world, and I will see you next time.